Ladies and gentlemen, let us bring our collective focus to a matter of profound gravity, a situation that is currently unfolding within the executive corridors of the Women's National Basketball Association. We are standing at a definitive juncture, a precipice of such monumental consequence that it threatens to overshadow the very celebration of the sport itself. We have received intelligence, fresh, immediate, and laden with implication, that suggests we are approaching the single most critical moment in the recent history of this league. The future of the upcoming season, the 30th anniversary of this association, and indeed the immediate financial livelihoods of every woman wearing a WNBA jersey, hangs precariously in the balance. The narrative arc of this labor dispute is about to converge on a singular point in time and space. This coming Monday, in the concrete canyons of New York City, the machinery of the league will finally grind into motion in a manner that we have not witnessed since the leaves turned in the autumn. We are talking about a face-to-face confrontation, a scheduled sit-down that will determine whether the business of basketball continues or whether we are plunged into the abyss of a work stoppage. The protagonists in this high-stakes drama are well known to us, yet the circumstances of their gathering are nothing short of extraordinary. We are looking at a scenario where the leadership of the WNBA Players Association, specifically Vice Presidents Kelsey Plum and Nafisa Collier, alongside the union president Nneka Ogwumike, will sit across the table from the league's ownership class. This is not a meeting of intermediaries. This is not a Zoom call filled with lawyers. This is the brass. Sources with direct knowledge of the situation have indicated that team owners will be present in the room. This inclusion is significant. It signals that the time for proxy wars has concluded. The individuals who write the checks, the titans of industry who hold the keys to the kingdom, are stepping out from behind the curtain to engage directly with the labor force. Consider the logistics of this convergence, for they paint a vivid picture of the chaotic timeline we are currently navigating. Ms. Plum and Ms. Collier are not merely strolling into a boardroom from the comfort of their off-season homes. They are currently embroiled in the competitive fires of the unrivaled league in Miami. They will be competing on the hardwood on Sunday night, pushing their bodies to the limit, only to immediately board an aircraft and fly north into the teeth of this negotiation. They are transitioning from the physical intensity of the court to the intellectual and economic brutality of the bargaining table in the span of a few hours. This frantic pace underscores the fresh-out-the-oven nature of this news. The urgency is palpable. Kelsey Plum, speaking to reporters amidst this whirlwind, offered a quote that attempts to project a veneer of optimism. She stated, "I feel extremely excited for the opportunity to be there in person." She noted that the presence of the executive committee and the league's commitment to attend is the most important thing, adding, "Hopefully, we'll have something." While one can appreciate the diplomatic posture, we must look past these pleasantries and confront the brutal reality of why this meeting is happening now and why the silence preceding it has been so deafening. We must address the elephant in the room, the catastrophic breakdown in communication that has defined the last month of these negotiations. It has come to light that the Players Association submitted a formal proposal to the league at the very end of December. In a functioning business relationship, one would expect a counter-proposal, or at the very least, a formal acknowledgement to follow within a reasonable time frame. Instead, what followed was a silence that stretched for more than 4 weeks. Why, you might ask, would the league, an entity desperate to capitalize on its newfound momentum, choose to ignore its labor force for a month? The answer, provided by sources familiar with the league's thinking, is as stark as it is revealing. The league simply did not believe the contents of the union's proposal warranted a response. Let us pause and digest the weight of that sentiment. The demands put forth by the players were viewed not merely as ambitious, but as so fundamentally detached from economic reality, so ridiculous in their construction, that the league's leadership essentially deemed them unworthy of a retort. We are aware of the specific parameters that likely caused this diplomatic freeze. The central sticking point, the immovable object in this negotiation, is the issue of revenue sharing. The union is reportedly entrenched in a demand for a 70-30 split. Specifically, they are asking for 30% of the gross revenue of the league. To the uninitiated, this may sound like a standard negotiation tactic. However, when applied to the specific economic ecosystem of the WNBA, it is a non-starter of epic proportions. The league's position is clear and, from a business standpoint, entirely defensible. No, this is never happening. The league is reportedly willing to discuss net revenue sharing. They are willing to discuss splitting the profits, if and when those profits materialize. But to demand 30% of the gross revenue from a business entity that has, by all accounts and public admission, never turned a profit in its entire existence? That is not negotiation. That is a demand for the owners to subsidize the league into oblivion. It is an attempt to slice up a pie that has not only not been baked, but implies the bakery itself should be sold for scrap to pay for the ingredients. This fundamental disconnect brings us to the rhetoric employed by the union leadership, specifically President Nneka Ogwumike. We have observed Ms. Ogwumike running her mouth, if you will allow the colloquialism, regarding the state of these talks. With fewer than 100 days remaining before the scheduled tip-off of the 30th season, she has characterized the league's silence as not constructive. In a phone interview, she stated, "To give the excuse that our proposal was not adequate is concerning. It's just now concerning." Ms. Ogwumike argues that ignoring the proposal is a tactic that disrespects the process. She claims, "I don't think we're being pressured because of the timeline at the expense of what we're really trying to negotiate." She insists that the union is not being disrespectful of the time, acknowledging that something like this takes time. She posits that if they can do it the right way, it will result in a season they can be proud of. However, we must apply a critical, analytical lens to these assertions. Is it truly not constructive for a business partner to refuse to engage with a proposal they deem fantastical? Or is it perhaps the most constructive signal they could possibly send? The league's silence was a message. It was a declaration that the conversation cannot proceed until the players anchor their demands in the realm of the possible. The league was not merely ignoring the union, they were waiting, according to sources, for a more realistic proposal. They were waiting for the fever to break. They were waiting for the realization to dawn that you cannot demand gross revenue sharing from a league that operates in the red. This leads us to the most perplexing and, frankly, the most damaging argument currently being advanced by the players: the issue of housing and salary. We are looking at a new proposal from the league that would see the average player salary swell to approximately $500,000 a year. Let us repeat that figure: $500,000 annually. This is a life-changing sum. It is a figure that places WNBA players squarely in the upper echelons of global earners. And yet, despite this monumental financial leap, a jump that would see salaries quintuple in some cases, we are still hearing complaints about the housing issue. The argument, incredibly, is that a player making $500,000 a year cannot afford to secure a decent apartment. This is where the players have lost the plot, and consequently they are losing the majority of the fans. How, one must ask, can a player stand before a camera and claim housing insecurity while earning $500,000? The average American worker, the very fan who buys the tickets and watches the games, is often scraping by on $50,000 or $60,000 a year. They manage to find housing. They manage to pay rent. They manage to survive. To suggest that a professional athlete cannot figure it out on $500,000 is an insult to the intelligence of the consumer. If you cannot find a livable space on that salary, the issue is not the salary. The issue is your expectation of luxury. Perhaps you cannot live in a penthouse in the most exclusive district of Manhattan. Perhaps you cannot reside in the Hollywood Hills. But fans are not going to feel bad for you because of that. The reality is simple. If the cost of living in a major metropolis is too high for your taste, you have options. As the saying goes, you can move out to the middle of the country, just like millions of other citizens who adjust their lifestyles to match their incomes. The argument that we have to live close to the facilities rings hollow when viewed through the lens of a $500,000 paycheck. Get a roommate, split the rent. These are players who spend their lives in team environments, who are accustomed to shared spaces and communal living. The idea that shacking up is beneath them, or that they require a fully subsidized housing stipend on top of a massive salary increase, is a level of entitlement that borders on the absurd. Under the new proposal, there is simply no excuse for the housing element to even remain in the equation. It is a vestigial complaint from a bygone era of low wages, and maintaining it now only serves to alienate the public. So, we return to the impending showdown on Monday. This is it. This is the moment of truth. The WNBA owners, many of whom also hold portfolios in the NBA and are well-versed in the brutal realities of labor disputes, are coming to New York to draw a line in the sand. I believe we are going to see an in-person ultimatum. The owners have made their move. They have put real money on the table, a league average of $500,000. They have offered a path to stability. The union now faces a binary choice. They can accept the parameters of a deal that fundamentally transforms the economic lives of their members, or they can continue to press for a 70-30 gross revenue split that the league simply cannot survive. If they choose the latter, if they walk into that meeting room on Monday with the same rhetoric, the same unrealistic demands, and the same refusal to acknowledge the league's profit-loss reality, then we must brace ourselves for the worst. We could be coming out of that meeting facing a lockout or a strike. The 30th season, which should be a victory lap for the sport, could be silenced before it even begins. The owners are prepared. They have the capital to withstand a work stoppage. Does the union? Do the players, many of whom rely on these checks to maintain their lifestyles, have the resolve to turn down $500,000 a year in pursuit of a mathematical impossibility? Monday is the litmus test. We will know a lot after Monday. We will know if the leadership of the Players Association is interested in securing a historic victory for women's sports, or if they are intent on driving the bus over a cliff in the name of ideological purity. The silence of the last 4 weeks has spoken volumes. Now words must be exchanged. The timeline is ticking. Fewer than 100 days remain. The money is there. The opportunity is there. It is time for the players to come correct. It is time for them to look at the offer on the table, an offer that represents a quantum leap in compensation, and realize that victory does not always look like getting everything you put on a wish list. Sometimes, victory looks like a 400% raise and the preservation of the league itself. Tell me what you truly think. Are the players justified in their stance, or has the leadership of the union lost touch with the economic reality of the business? Do you believe the housing crisis is a legitimate grievance for someone earning $500,000? Let us know your thoughts. The outcome of Monday's meeting will define the future of this league for a generation. We wait with bated breath to see if reason can prevail or if the lights will go out on the WNBA.